أعوذ بالله السميع العليم البصير من الشيطان الرجيم من همسه ونفخه ونفثه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين آمين وبعد الحمد لله رب العالمين فهو أهل للحمد والشكر والثناء الجميل. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is the owner and the custodian of all praises and adorations and thankfulnesses. We thank him, we glorify him, we adore him, we gratify him, we glorify him. So we seek him to further show his blessings, bounties, and mercies upon the noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, households, and followers until the day of reckoning and beyond. Ameen. Fellow seekers of the truth, fellow Muslims, and fellow in humanity, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So we welcome ourselves to the continuation of our discussion in Ramadan, okay, in our discussions in the Hikam of Ibn Atta'illah as-Sakandari, so that we theme as Ramadan daily spiritual treats in the garden of the Hikam of Ibn Atta'illah as-Sakandari. Today being the second night of Ramadan, 1446, and corresponding to the third day of March 2025. So the theme for the aphorism for today is the wish of Allah for his commandments to come true. The wish of Allahu subhanahu wa ta'ala for his preferences to come true. Okay, so when Allah wishes something, so he decides what he wants, and he so decides and design it as he wants it. So that is the theme of the aphorism, right? To come through, to come through. There is another E there, to come through, all right? So the point here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إذا أراد شيئا يقول له كن فيكون. When Allah wants something to happen, he will only say to the thing to be, and it is. Now, when Allah wishes, Man arada Allahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fi din. When Allah wishes that someone is well learned in his matter of religion, he will guide him to seek in the truthful knowledge and the required knowledge that will make him to understand that. So now, when Allah wants us to worship him, so he regulates, okay, our being, and our strategized for it. Okay, so that is the point here. When Allah wishes that we worship him, he enforces the act of worship on us. Okay, and then so it makes it easy for us to worship him. So that is the truth, that is the theme for the aphorism. If Allah wishes, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed and instructed the Prophet in the Quran, when he says, إِنَّكَ لَن تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You cannot force anyone to accept the faith. Okay, anyone on anyone, you cannot force faith on anyone that you wish. It is Allah's wish that we guide anyone that He wants to the right path. Okay, so that is the theme for the aphorism 195, as we're going to see. Now, the ayah of Quran that is corresponding to that and this time of Ramadan is in Surah Al-Baqarah 183, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who have accepted faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فرض عليكم الصيام يعني كتب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated the fasting of Ramadan upon you as it has been obligated upon those before you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you will be conscious of Allah. Now, the point here is what Allah wants from us is a taqwa at the end. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that is the result of fasting. So that is what He wanted. So He wanted us to maintain piety. He wanted us to be conscious of Him. Now, and He paved the way for us to have the taqwa. And what is that way? The way is as-siyam. So He enforced siyam on us while He is aiming for our taqwa. So He's aiming good for us, and He plans and strategizes the way to accept, to achieve that piety for us. Okay, so the focus of Allah in us is a taqwa. We should have piety, be conscious of Him. Now, how do we be conscious of Him? Then He laid down the way, the rule and regulation that we follow. If you follow it, then you will have the taqwa. So that is exactly the point of aphorism 195. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to as stated in the aphorism by Ibn Ata'illah as-Sakandari, that علم قلة نهوض العباد إلى معاملته فأوجب عليهم وجود طاعته فساقهم إليه بسلاسل الإيجاب. عجب ربك من قوم يساقون إلى الجنة بالسلاسل. علم قلة نهوض العباد إلى معاملته. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands. So the limitation of His servants upholding His ibadah, upholding connection to Him, relating to Him. He knows their weaknesses. He knows their limitations. He knows that they will not want to do it willingly. فَأَوْجَبَ عَلَيْهِمْ وُجُودَ طَاعَتِهِ. Then He obligated upon them the necessity and obligation of worshiping Him, of following Him, of obeying Him, of following His commandments. أَوْجَبَ عَلَيْهِمْ وُجُودَ طَاعَتِهِ. So He regulated for them the way to worship Him. فَسَاقَهُمْ إِلَيْهِ بِسَلَاسِلِ الْإِجَابِ. So it was as if He captured His servant unto Himself through the chains of possibility, through the chains of ibadah. So He uses as-salat, as-siyam, as-zakat, al-hajj, all of this, He uses them as salasi. These are symbolical to chains. So He chained us. He pulled us to Himself with the chains of activity, of possibility. Okay, so that we will do what He wants, that in order to get what He wants to give us. He wants to give us the reward of 50 times of salawat a day. So he asked us to pray only 5 times a day. And he said 1 time will be multiplied by 10. So he wants to give us the reward of fasting for the whole year. So he gave us Ramadan, 30 days, and approximately 30 days, and said anyone who follows it with 6 in Shawwal will be like the one who have fasted the whole year. That is 36. So 36 multiplied by 10 reward will be 360. So that is the approximate calculation of the lunar year calculation of the number of days. So he wants us to become born again, like born again, always young and youthful. So he asks us to go to Hajj so that anyone who goes to Hajj without fornication, without voiding it, so he will be like the one who has, as if he was just born by his mother. We see this. So he wants us to always renew our youthfulness. So he sent us to that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reason why he does that is he wants us to get something, then he plans what we should do to get that something that he wants to give us. So he realizes our weaknesses and limitations and our unwantingness to do what he asked us to do in relation and connecting with him. Then he obligated the acts of worship on us so that they will be like chains to pull us towards himself. So on the day of judgment, Allah will say, Ajiba rabbuka min qawmin yusakuna ila al-jannati bis-salasil. Your Lord is astonished of a people who were pulled and forced into the Jannah with chain on their hands and neck. That is to say, people who are handcuffed and arrested, like people who are arrested to be admitted into the Jannah. So is it not astonishing? It is surprising that your Lord has to arrest people so before they come to Jannah. So that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Now, in the Ramadan, the connection here is Allah wants us to be closer to Him. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Then He obligated as-siyam. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you achieve piety. So literally, the aphorism means he knew that most of his slaves are not self-motivated in seeking him. So he obligated for them obedience to him. So he pushed them towards himself with the chains of obligation. Your Lord is amused by a people who are pushed and pulled to paradise in chains, in handcuffs. People who are arrested to paradise. So let's go to Sheikh Abdul Majid Asharnubi's interpretation. It says, علم الله سبحانه قلة نهود عامة عباده إلى معاملته. So your Lord subhanahu knows the limitation and the weaknesses of generality of the servant to uphold the relationship and connection to him, such as iqamatul ubudiyya taw'an minhum, so that he knows that they will not willingly want to establish the servitude to him. فَأَوْجَبَ عَلَيْهِمْ وُجُودَ طَاعَتِهِ كَرْهًا. So he forced onto them the obligation of following him and acting accordingly. لِأَجْلِ مَا خَوَّفَهُمْ بِهِ إِنْ لَمْ يَفْعَلُوا. Because they will be afraid, okay? Because he has afraid them, he has made them afraid, he has put fear into them, okay, of a punishment if they don't do as commanded. فَسَاقَهُمْ إِلَيْهِ بِسَلَاسِلِ الْإِجَابِ وَالتَّخْوِيفِ. So Allah put them to him, pushed them to himself, okay, with the chains of possibility, the chain of panicking. وَاسْتَدْرَجَهُمْ بِذَلِكَ إِلَى مَا فِيهِ نَعِيمُهُمْ وَرَفْعُهُمْ إِلَى الْمَقَامِ الْمَنِيعِ. So he used that to pull them towards what benefits them, what makes them, puts them to the bounty of Allah, and what elevates them to the highest position. كما يفعل ولي الصبي عند إرادة تعديله. So this example is like a father or a guardian who is trying to train, who is training a boy, a child. So now it would be like the father or the trainer is beating or striking, okay, but that is in order to train the child. All right. فإنه لا يتركه إلى طبيعته وأهوائه تجري به. So a trainer or a father would not leave the boy, the child, for his own neglection to do whatever he wishes. بل يلزمه أمورا يشق عليه فعلها. So sometimes it will force the child to do what is impossible, what is hard on him. فإذا بلغ مبلغ الرجال تبين له نفعها. So only when the child grows up and matures, he will understand the benefit of what his father and guardian has done for him. فيكونون كأسارى الكفار الذين يراد بهم الدخول في الإسلام. So these are going to be like the those who were conquered, okay, the conquered unbelievers, okay, who were victors, okay, that we want them to accept Islam. وهم يكرهون ذلك مع أنه موصل إلى الجنة دار السلام. So, and still they hate being fooled and being enslaved, okay, even though they know that this is the only way for their salvation into the paradise. كما أشار إلى ذلك بالحديث الشريف. So he explains this with the hadith of the Prophet that says, الذي رواه بالمعنى ولفظه. So which the statement of which is, عجب الله من أقوام يقادون إلى الجنة بالسلاسل. Allah is surprised and astonished of a people who would have to be pulled into the Jannah in their chain, in their handcuffs. وهذا الحديث في أسارى بدر الذين أسروا ثم أسلموا. So this hadith was issued following the enslaved people of Badr, people who were conquered in the Ghazwatul Badr, okay, but they later surrendered and accepted Islam. So, well, meaning to say, why would you have to be forced to go into what benefits you? والمراد من قوله أجب ربك من أقوام يقودون إلى الجنة بالصلاة. So what is meant by the statement that Allah is astonished of the people who had to be pushed into the Jannah by handcuffing. So what it means is إظهار غرابة ذلك الأمر لخلقه. So he is so astonished and surprised to see that in his servants. فَيَتَعَجَّبُونَ مِنْهُ. And they will also be surprised that this is Jannah, this is what Allah is for our benefit, so why do we have to be forced to do it? لأن العجب الذي هو استنظام أمر خفي سببه مستحيل على الله تعالى. Okay, so because being astonished and surprised, okay, which is an interjection here, so this is a hidden, this is a spiritual, in a spiritual realm, okay, but in actual sense, it is impossible that something astonishes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala figurative. This is just figurative. So وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْخَاصَةَ لَا يَحْتَاجُونَ إِلَى الْإِيجَابِ وَالتَّخْوِيفِ وَتَعْبِيرِ. So, but here, on the other hand, there are some people, special people, who do not require being forced or being panicked or being warned before doing what Allah asks them to do. لِتَنْوِيرِ بَصَائِرِهِمْ وَحُبُّهُمْ لِطَاعَةِ اللَّطِيفِ الْخَبِيرِ. Because their insight has been lightened already. They have the guiding light, and they have the love of following Allah, the lenient and the well-informed. فَلَمْ يَقْتَصِرُوا عَلَى مَا اقْتَصَرَ عَلَيْهِ الْعَامَّةُ مِنَ الْوَاجِبَاتِ. So they do not have the limitations and the weaknesses that general people have. Okay, in order they don't have to be forced before they do their obligation. بل أضافوا إليها النوافل الخيرات. So instead, so they after even doing the obligations, they do supererogation also. وصارت أعمالهم كلها قربات, and as such, all their deeds becomes things that takes them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the summary here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does as he wishes, and when he wants, he executes out. So he finds a way by himself to do it. So there is no excuse for anyone not to do accordingly. So just like someone fasting the Ramadan without professing Shahada, so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the benefit and the advantages that there are in the Ramadan and in the acts of ibadah that we execute in it. So this is supplication for the second night of Ramadan. So we observe at least 2 rakah of Qiyam. It could be 4, it could be 6, it could be more. Okay, on each rakah, we recite Surah Al-Fatiha and Ikhlas. Okay, after Taslim, so we recite Subhanaka anta Allahu al-mulkul quddus. Subhanaka anta Allahu al-mulkul quddus. Subhanaka anta Allahu al-mulkul quddus. Okay, glory be to you, Allah, the one who is in whose hand is the dominion of everything, and the one who is pure. Okay, so it is the same importance as of yesterday. All right, so the person will be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we can recite it throughout the day of the second day of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all the benefits and bounties therein. إنه على ذلك قدير وبالإجابة جدير. نعم المولى ونعم الناصر. وبهذا وبالله التوفيق والهداية. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.